Steve Horowitz. I'm the John H. Schnatter Distinguished Professor of Free Enterprise here at Ball State, and I'd like to welcome you all to this afternoon's edition of the Entrepreneurs in Economics Speaker Series, which is sponsored by the Schnatter Institute for Entrepreneurship and Free Enterprise. This afternoon's talk is the second of three in this series this spring. Our third speaker will be Professor Frank Stevenson from Berry College on Tuesday, April 10th. He'll be speaking in AJ 175 at 4:15 p.m. He'll be talking on sports tourism in the Minneapolis area. It is my great pleasure this afternoon to welcome Magatte. As you will soon see, Magatte is a force of nature and one of the most inspirational speakers it's been my good fortune to see in action. She was born in Senegal, educated in Germany and France, spent most of her life here in the United States. She is an entrepreneur, she is committed to socially conscious business, and she has much to say about why Africa has struggled economically and how markets and entrepreneurship can unleash the potential of her home country of Senegal and the rest of Africa. She is currently the founder and CEO of Skin is Skin, a high-end skincare products line based on indigenous Senegalese recipes and ingredients. Her products are distributed through the web as well as through selected boutiques in Nordstrom. She commits at least 10% of her profits to the creation of entrepreneurial schools in Senegal designed to develop the next generation of Senegalese geniuses. Previously, she founded Avena World Beverages and has written on entrepreneurship, free enterprise in Africa for places like The Guardian, The Huffington Post, and Barron's. She is a frequent speaker at business conferences and college campuses, including Harvard, Yale, Columbia, Cornell, Brown, Dartmouth, MIT, Wharton, and Babson, and now Ball State. She was named a Young Global Leader by the Davos Global Economic Forum, as well as one of the 20 youngest power women in Africa by Forbes in 2011. She serves on the board of several different groups, including the Sports for Education and Economic Development Academy, a private school in Senegal that prepares young people academically and athletically so that they can compete for NCAA basketball scholarships in the United States. She also serves on the advisory board of the Whole Planet Foundation, the private foundation of Whole Foods Market. She is currently at work on a book tentatively titled Making Wakanda Real, a world in which black lives actually matter. I had known of Magatte for a number of years, but I think we first met several years ago at a student seminar run by the Foundation for Economic Education. I was blown away by her talk there and her ability to connect with young people interested in entrepreneurship and free enterprise. Since then, I've seen her speak a few more times, and every time she amazes me. I am now most proud to count her as a friend.
Thank you. Same
So
here.
buckle up your seatbelt and get ready for the ride. Speaking today on why Africans risk death to reach Europe and what can be done to create African prosperity, please help me welcome one of my favorite people on the planet, Magatte.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Steve.
And thanks to the whole center, Rob, Mike. Rob also, right? For having me. It's just been such a pleasure. It's always a great pleasure for me whenever I get given the privilege to come and talk to folks. I don't know what any of your relationships in this room is to Africa or why you even wanted to come to this room, but whatever your reasons are, I want to thank you for being here because the fact that you care matters a great deal to me. So thank you and give kudos to yourself for being here this afternoon. The talk is about, I am sure this is no secret, the African continent. Unfortunately, we have a lot of poverty on it, right? And I was born in Senegal, west coast of Africa, and left Senegal around age 7.5 when my 7.5 or 8 years old when my family decided to move to Germany. And then we moved to France, and after France, I decided to leave France because I felt it would be too small for my ambitions. Now, what you have to understand is what I do today, everything that I do today, including standing in this room and talking to you guys, is because I have always had this huge issue around why is most of Africa so poor? And for me, it's not just a simple question. It goes down. It's a very, very personal problem. I have friends of mine who have died I have friends of mine who are probably going to be dying soon. I have friends of friends who have been stuck somewhere in Libya being sold as slaves. What am I talking about? What am I talking about? You see, Senegal is this little country on the west coast of Africa. And so what you're having is young people getting themselves into little fishermen's boats, trying to cross over to Europe to find a job. Because back home, we don't have enough jobs, so people can stay home and run their lives and lead productive lives like we do here. The problem is, most of these boats don't make it to destination. You guys started waking up to the idea of the migration problem, to the migrants problem. And probably the first time you ever heard of a migrant being washed off the shore somewhere was when you saw the body of a poor little boy washed upside down on that shore. I'm sure you guys all seen that photo. I've grown up with those stories. I did not have to wait for that story to happen to know that this is what happens to grown-ups, to babies, to women, to people. And the only reason why they're there, in the situation of this young little boy, it was because he came from a war-torn place. But I'm talking to you here about economic migrants, meaning people who take dangerous journeys to cross over to go look for work because where they live, there is no work. And so these boats tip over with a bunch of people in them. Just a couple weeks ago, another news of another boat that had turned over. Sometimes you open the paper and you find out you read about a body that has just dropped off somewhere above England because somebody hid somewhere on the plane trying to illegally migrate to Europe to find a job. Now, because the routes that they take from the ocean, they find it too dangerous, and also there's a huge crackdown going on. So now folks are saying, hey, we're going to take land routes. So we're going to go through land. And then they get stuck somewhere in Libya on their way to Europe. Have you seen CNN coverage? Have you guys seen those? Black people like me right now in 2018 being sold as slaves. Do you know how much I cost right now on the slave market in Libya? Anywhere between $300 and $500. Yes, you guys, I am talking to you. It is something that is happening right now as we are speaking. Why? These people are going and they're looking for work. Are they really any different than you? Out of all the students in this room, which one of you actually are going to come out of here and you want to find a job? Raise your hands. Keep your hands up. Who here has a job? Keep your hands up. Those of you who want to keep a job, who want to have a job, keep your hands up. Put it high because I really want us to see this. Okay, out of the people who are not students, not looking for a job later, you guys keep your hands up. But those who don't have their hands up, who has a job? Who has a job? Okay. I see pretty much everybody in this room that's in an age to work, that has a job and or is going to go look for a job. And it's pretty much everybody in this room. I've seen it. You all raise your hands. I like to make my premises clear. So then, through the process of this presentation, I do not want to hear one of you tell me that jobs do not matter. Because you all have your hands up. And without a job, as a matter of fact, I don't know what you're going to do. Maybe you have some rich parents somewhere, but even them, how did they get their money unless they stole it? Right? You had to have started a business and or worked for one to accumulate, this money. So they're leaving because of no jobs. Now, people are poor. They leave because they're poor. So people are poor because they have no money. You have no money when you have no source of income. Where does a source of income come for most of us?
Job.
Right? Where do jobs come from? It's funny that you guys are all of a sudden very quiet. Where do jobs come from?
Business owners.
Okay, I heard business owners. What else?
Infrastructure.
Hmm?
Infrastructure.
What do you mean by infrastructure?
Well, this whole campus is an infrastructure that we can work at, buildings.
So you mean institutions like this one, right? And in this case, it's public. So I hear some people say, oh, jobs come from government. But even if it's a public university, where do you think the money that fuels it comes from? Where do you think the money that comes for us to pay our government workers, including the folks who work at public places? Taxes. Where do taxes come from? Workers and employers. As a business owner, I pay taxes, and as employees, you pay taxes. We pull up that money and we go pay our public servants, right? So you see how, in the end, everything goes back to these businesses. And you're right to say it comes from these businesses and people having jobs from them. When you look at it from everywhere, we know that most jobs come from small and medium-sized enterprises. There is no magic about it. Any country that is a wealthy country today or, mid-income country, they all have that in common. Now, if we're going to say that jobs is the answer, a key answer to poverty, then don't you think, and then we also said that we agreed that jobs come from businesses primarily, and most importantly from small and medium-sized enterprises. Then don't you think that the next best thing to do is to try and take a look at the business environment that these companies get to start a business in or not? Yes or no? Because if you're going to tell me that you need something, I have to look at the climate that allows that something to happen or not. Well, let me tell you. Because it has always been a big no-no for me to accept any form of exceptionalism about Africans when it comes to why is it that we're poor. Meaning like this weird thing out there as to why we're poor. I never could understand why is it that my parents, when they move from Senegal to Europe, all of a sudden their outlook on life is much better economically speaking. I will not buy into the fact that some people are inferior. Can you look at me and say that a Mexican person, explain to me how that same person, the minute they cross this border from Mexico to the US, the value of the work of that person gets multiplied by 10 automatically the minute they do this. The same person, same background, same training, same everything. Yet, you get to a new place, everything changes for that person. I had my proof right there that it's probably not about me, something about me being necessarily so innately wrong that I'm not like this idiot out there as an African who cannot do anything, which is unfortunately what a lot of people think, whether they say it or not. Somehow they think, you talk to some people and they're like, you wouldn't believe the type of tough crap that I read. Anytime we have to talk about something that's wrong in Africa, the comments make me want to puke. Oh yeah, these savages out there, they'll be the last ones to ever get developed, and blah, 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 as if you're superior to me. The truth is, I drag any of your behinds out to Africa and watch you not get anything done. Watch you swim from a freaking molasses that I have to swim through. So, jobs, key to answer to poverty. Jobs come from businesses, small and medium-sized businesses. Then let's look at the climate. I love for that to look at two rankings. One is the Doing Business Index ranking of the World Bank, and the other one is the Fraser Economic Index, Fraser Economic Freedom Index. Let's take the one for today. We're going to focus on the Doing Business Index ranking of the World Bank. Has anybody here ever heard of that ranking? You guys don't count because you're professors and economic professors. You don't count. Yet everybody here, I'm sure, would love to see Africans also go on with their lives, live happy lives, just like everybody else is allowed, right? I see that here in this room. I see you guys nodding your heads, and I believe you. Yet you don't know about that ranking. what the Doing Business Index ranking is, it measures how easy or hard it is to start and run a business in any country in the world. And sure enough, we find that all the wealthy countries are at the top of that list. And all the African countries are at the bottom of the list. What does it mean in words that you guys can understand? It means it is harder to do business almost anywhere in Africa than it is to do business anywhere in Scandinavia, and than it is to do business in socialist countries like Nicaragua and Bolivia. What does that mean? Because I'm sure you guys still don't know what it means. I'm gonna get out of here. Shoot. This is my latest company, as I told you, and these lip balms that you see up there, they're all manufactured in Senegal. Our team is there. We have a state-of-the-art lab over there and everything. So in this lip balm over here, you have precisely 7 ingredients. Amazing oils, very rich oils, and butters, really neat. This is sold in the US. We're going to be soon carried at Whole Foods. You understand that not just any crappy product gets into Whole Foods, right? And even if it was not for Whole Foods, I have too much pride in myself to release a crappy product. Thank you very much. So I care about what I put out there. 7 ingredients plus the packaging. I happen to be in a place where, in order to do a product like that, I need really good ingredients. And they have to match my standards. And they're usually above and beyond the call of duty. Out of the 7, only 2 can I find in my country that match the standards that I need in order to be competitive when I'm here in terms of quality and standards. It means the other 5, I got to bring them in. Nothing wrong with that. Here, you do that all the time. Except that, out of those 5 ingredients, 4 of them, actually 3 of them, have, when I bring them in, do you know how much I pay tariff? Number? Say a number. 50%. 45%. That's crazy. That's crazy. Just to give you an example. So what that means is, you're in the US, you buy one of those oils that I need, it costs you maybe $8 a pound of that oil. Me, it's going to cost me almost $12 a pound. And every time I have to add 45 cents, let's just round up a number. Every time I have to add 50 cents in COGS, meaning cost of goods sold, meaning the material you put in it, that 50 cents has to turn into $2 for you to pay me. But I'm going to have to retail it to you for $2 more. Every 50 cents I add to my cost, at the end, it will cost you, customer, $2 more. Are you an idiot customer that's going to say, I don't understand, Magatte has her product here because it's made in Africa, and something similar that's made in the US because the people in the US don't have to deal with that crap. Why am I going to go and pay $2 more for the same quality type product? Do you really think I have a business then? Hell to the no. And then the other ingredient, 68.7%. You might as well just double my price. To start the business, do you guys know here how long it takes you to start an LLC? You go online, maybe indianastate.gov, something, fill up some paperwork, 15 minutes you're done, and within a few minutes later, you get all of your paperwork with the state, with the stamp from the state, everything is there, your bylaws, everything, you're good to go. You use that paperwork, you open your bank account, you're done. Bank account, you don't have to have some crazy minimums or anything. 15 minutes. Maybe 20, maybe $300 something for, the registration or whatever. Compare that to, Excuse me?
LLC.
$20, yeah. No, but there's also another the LLC itself is $20, but then there's $300 for, but it's not the LLC, you're right actually, it's not the LLC itself, so which is even worse. $20 is right, but there's something else. Anyway, so 15 minutes, $20, you have a formally registered business, meaning you're legal. Compare that to my country, takes you 2 years, and but $20 is close to $3,000. And the bank, you want to open a bank account, they say, oh, you have to have at least $1,000. Who here would be able to open a business that under those conditions? Who? I ask you. Are you still now starting to think that maybe I'm just an idiot who can't get anything done? Or maybe are you starting to think, whoa, if I have to swim through so many molasses, maybe I will not start a business? This, my friends, is the problem. And then employees, God. You are married to employees for good or for bad. And maybe some people in this room think, well, what's wrong with that? You know, and as an employee, you have to be protected and blah, blah, blah. Don't take me wrong. Except that these two just got married. But if somebody had told them, oh, beware, because, you know, you get married, but you will not be able to divorce should something wrong happen, you're going to have to go through the state. The state is going to have to decide if you can even get divorced and what it's going to be like, the terms. If you were going to marry somebody, and I tell you that's what's going to happen, God forbid, would you marry that person? However much you love that person? That's why I will also not hire you. If I cannot fire you, I will not hire you. It's not about me being a jerk, but it's about having flexibility in your life to do what's right when you need to do something. And business is hard already as it is. And we're not like a bunch of mean people walking out there trying to do bad things to you. As a matter of fact, I call myself a conscious capitalist. I'm one of those people that for any of my businesses, first of all, I always start a business with a real cause at heart. I don't start my businesses so I can add one more zero to my wealth. I start my businesses because there's a problem that truly so bothers me that I will have no peace but to do something about it. Just like here, 50% of our profits here at the top, half of our profits go to fight discrimination here in this country. And when I say I follow the principles of conscious capitalism, meaning I am not a jerk employer, before I make any decision, I take into account how is that decision of mine going to affect my employees, my customers, my suppliers, the environment in which my business is thriving, the community, and the environment itself, and the shareholders. These guys are all my stakeholders, not just my shareholders. And the end of my business is not profit maximization. We have to make profit because without profit, you cannot sustain your business, you cannot keep paying your employees, you cannot keep paying your suppliers, you cannot stay in business, and everybody loses. That's why we make profits. So you would be hard found to find me to be a jerk employer. But when I need to do something, I have to have the flexibility to do it. Because sometimes when all of a sudden you lose 50% of your revenue, what do? You lose 50% of revenue, but yet you have to keep everybody on board? If you lose your job and you live in an apartment that costs a certain amount of money, isn't it the first thing that you're going to do, try to get out of that apartment and find a cheaper apartment, or maybe even go and move back in with your parents until you get back on your feet? You see, that level of flexibility, imagine if I told you, you're in this apartment, you just lost your job, but you can't leave this apartment and you have to keep paying your freaking rent. What am I subjecting you to? At some point, you will be evicted, aren't you going to be? At some point, even your credit rate, everything is going to go to hell. Why? Because we did not give you that flexibility to downsize, reshuffle things around, get back on your feet, and once you're back on your feet, you can bring more people back on. That's all I'm asking for as an employer, and I don't even have that in my country. And all of these causes, with many, many, many others, if anybody's interested, start looking at the Doing Business Index ranking. It has 10 indicators. It is insane, the stuff that's in there. But if you even want to know more of the truth, there's more even insanity. So this is why Africa is poor. Africa is poor because our business climate sucks, mostly. Yes, we have problems of bad governance and all other type of issues. But I do believe that if we can only liberate the African indigenous entrepreneur, some major things will start to happen. Yes, I may not have right away, all the democracy that we're talking about. But think about this, guys. You're in this country where in my country, we have 80% unemployment. 80%. 80% unemployment. So imagine if this country, 80% unemployment, most people are dying at sea because, they're going to look for work. Although we have democracy in my place. But imagine a country that's poor. Now, if I liberate the African entrepreneurs, the indigenous entrepreneurs, they can create all of these jobs. You may still say, okay, maybe democracy is still not there. But guess what starts to happen all of a sudden? Now, instead of having millions of people in your country that are starved, when they manage to make breakfast for their family, they're busy fetching lunch. Once we have managed to find lunch, they're busy fetching dinner. None of you knows what that feels like in this room. I hope not. But when that is your case, you really sincerely don't have any time for what type of leadership you have. You just don't. You don't have time. You are busy keeping your family survive. Now imagine this. If all of a sudden you have your job, now kids are taken care of, food on the table is, you're fine. Maslow pyramid. You have time now to start thinking about the next thing above. Imagine now all of a sudden you have this middle class. Then that middle class will have the peace of mind, because that's really what it is. When you have food in your belly and everything else, you have a peace of mind. All of a sudden, they're going to be able to go now and say, okay, election time comes, what's going on with this person? What's going on even with the quality of the air that I'm breathing, or with the way my water system is being handled? They have time to deal with all of that. They have time to make the right decisions. And they will get the type of leadership that they need at that point. So my strategy is, let's not ask for 20 million things at the same time. Let's free the very people that are going to allow the other people to get on board, and then let that mass go create the next level of change that they're going to want to have. Right now, all I have is, do you know what I have? When election time comes, do you know what your vote is worth? Imagine election time comes. I come and I say to you, what's your name? Nick. I come to you and I say, hey, I give you a t-shirt and a sandwich. Vote for me. That's how it is. But that works if you're poor, doesn't it? Because if you're who you are now, are you really going to care about my sandwich and my t-shirt? No. You see what poverty does. So even when people complain, there's no democracy in some of these places, there's no time. They don't have, they're not, voilà. When I don't know what to say anymore, I speak in French, so sorry. So you got it. So this is the problem, guys. Unfortunately, every time we bring it up, most people don't know what the hell is going on in Africa. And everybody, as I'm sure many people in this room, they think, oh, if only we give more aid, if only we give more money. And by the way, let's be clear. I am not talking about humanitarian aid. When there is a crisis, we all got to help. That's a given. And I expect that from you, and I expect that from myself. That's a given. But when aid, foreign aid, becomes a way of life, we have a huge problem. And that is what has been going on. So instead of focusing on more of like, oh, well, all of this silly Band-Aid that we're coming up with, can we become real for a second about these issues? What does it mean to become real for a second? Is not only to know about this, but it is also to stop any form of ideology that one may have about business. I don't know what type of business you are complaining about. I understand we complain about crony business, about crony capitalism, which I call also crapitalism. I get that, and we all should fight that. But business is the very thing that brings what everybody in this room wants and or is going to seek. These jobs that you want so badly that allow you to pay for your mortgage, to pay for your children's education, to pay for the clothes you have on your body, to at the end of the day be dignified human beings. That job, yes, that job. You see how all of a sudden the jobs become very sexy, doesn't it? But we have it, it's in the back of our backyard, and we complain about everything. Well, those of us who don't have it, you can see what it does to us. It leads to death. When it doesn't lead to death, it leads to so many women dying on childbirth. Oh, and on that one, by the way, for people out there, like the Prince of, Prince William, it's like, oh, the biggest problem of the universe today is overpopulation, says the guy who is about to have 4 kids. So who exactly are we supposed to get rid of? I think they're looking at me, right? The black and brown babies, maybe? And even if that's your problem, that's what you're so worried about, overpopulation from these black people who reproduce like rabbits, because I hear all of this. And it hurts, but I hear it all. But even if that is your concern, that's actually why you need to even work harder with me so that we can create these jobs. Because I'm going to tell you the best birth control for women in these situations is a job. We know it. When women have jobs, naturally you see it going down. Because they want to keep their jobs, they want to, they want it. So, even for those people who their motivation, like, we don't want to see any more black babies or whatever, okay, so then help me create more jobs. We don't have the same goal, but it's okay. Let's use the same methods. But you see, guys, we're laughing and all of that. But to me, just last night, after we had dinner, I went back to my room. I called my husband. Of course, I'm always excited about having an opportunity to talk to more people, because that's really what it takes. It's one person at a time. I did not come here to convince all of you. But if I have planted one beginning of a seed in one mind, I leave this place knowing that I have done my job. Because that one seed is the beginning of everything. Everything. We have seen entire nations being changed by a leader or somebody who later become a leader who has heard an idea from someone. The power of ideas is pretty amazing. So, but last night I went home to my room and I called my husband and I told him, I said, Michael, I feel depressed. He's like, what is it? I said, I had a great evening. We talked and everything. And I said, but I feel so lonely. It feels so lonely. It feels so sad that in 2018, I still have to explain these things to people. It feels so depressing that in 2018, knowing everything that we know, that we still have to deal with this crap. It feels so sad and infuriating that in 2018, all of this is still going on, because at places like the New York Times and places like that, all of these places that somehow have a moral high ground, for ideological reasons, they decide that they're not going to promote these ideas. We have been trying your ways for decades. It's gotten us nowhere. But you get to pick the winners and the losers in terms of who gets their message out. So for anybody who cares in this room, the only job for you today is to at least have heard my side of a story. Because too often you hear the other side of a story. So your only job today is that you heard my side of a story. And for those of you who already are convinced with my side of a story, what I need you to do is to give more platform so that this side of a story gets to go out more. That's what you guys have done, and I will thank you never enough for that. And for those who want to push it further, join me on this. Use your power anywhere and anytime you can to challenge the other side of a story, to promote this side of a story. If you're going to be donating from now on, I'm not asking you not to donate anymore, but I'm asking you to be a little bit smarter in how you donate. I don't want your free shoes. Your free shoes do nothing to get me out of poverty. If anything, they actually create more trouble for me. And for those of you who don't understand what I'm talking about, you buy some shoes, great, you feel great, you're sending social signals to your friend all over the place, but you're great, this great guy or this great woman, oh yeah, I care, I have Tom shoes. Except I look at you and I say, you have no idea what you just did. You see, I come from this very small village in Senegal where we make these products. And this one girl who works with me, so we have a lot of shoemakers. Do you know what happens to those people, to the shoemakers who are employing hundreds of people and providing jobs? And those jobs are making people live dignified lives, taking care of their kids and not having to beg anyone for anything, including shoes. The day that Tom's Shoes truck shows up, it's that many hundreds of people that you're sending back to the unemployment office. What did your free shoes do for me? Do I believe you did it out of good heart? Absolutely. Do I believe that maybe you didn't know? Yes, I'm willing to believe that. But I'm telling you, there is this unintended consequences of what you're doing that's out there. So do not come and tell me, oh, you have all of these problems. Ooh, not my fault. There are ways in which you're making things worse, and there are ways in which you can make things better. What are some of those ways? Because I like to criticize by creating. We don't just pound on people's heads. You try to advance solutions. They don't have to be perfect, but at least let's try to think about solutions and be positive and move forward. Some other things you can do. Every time you're going to donate to an initiative, think about, are you helping a human being be productive? Are you contributing maybe to creating more skills? Like, anytime somebody's going to invest in education, I have no problem. I think all kids could get all the education that they want all the time, anytime. If where your money is going is into education, you cannot really do wrong. Continue doing that. But if you have to think between, should I give goods versus something else? Never give goods unless, and again, we are into a humanitarian crisis. And even then, you got to try and get your money to local organizations who understand the place better and also who can help put the economy back on track, because your money is going to go for them to buy things from around. And the whole chain is going to start again. When there's a crisis somewhere, you even see it in your neighborhood, if you had like a flooding or whatever, what people are trying to get back to is very quickly back to a more normal life. Businesses running, things like that, the money needs to circulate so that many more goods can circulate, and that's the quicker you do that, the quicker people get out of that mess, during that incident. So I just want everybody to be a little bit more mindful of how you exercise your good heart, because I know you have good heart. But now, can we have a brain join in, right? I used to do the same thing. Do you know how many thousands of dollars I have sent back home, or how many thousands of dollars worth of stuff that I have given away, thinking I was helping? So, it's easy for me to stand here today and say what I'm saying. But I used to be doing exactly the same thing. So because of that, I totally understand. So my style is to poke people. But I have one of the biggest hearts out there. It's the reason why I come across as very impatient about a lot of things. And this is where I would ask you for a little bit of empathy and compassion, is put yourself in my shoes. When you have friends dying unnecessarily, untimely, and when you have many more people living in abject conditions, at some point, if you're normally constituted, it starts to wear on you. So that's that. I just want to share one video before we finish and go to question and answers. I want to show you this video about skin is skin, because usually when I talk about it, people are like, what is it? So I'll just show you this quick video. And basically, Skin is Skin is about fighting discrimination in the US. I believe in the power of brands to change things. I am sick and tired of the pointing fingers that we have adopted when it comes to fighting discrimination. I am usually not one to blame others. I like to think rationally about what the problem is, although I try to understand where people come from heart-wise. And when it comes to discrimination, I feel like we hear too many times somebody be like, the problem is not me, it's you discriminating against me. When I have researched this issue very deeply, and I am personally very convinced that the work is going to have to be done within each one of us. This is not about me pointing fingers at others. I will tell you a story real quick. A few months ago, I was looking for an eye doctor, a new eye doctor. And I got all of his names from friends of mine and my practitioner. And I started looking at their reviews and everything to research them. And I kept going. And all of a sudden I saw Dr. Chavez. Do you know what I heard a voice that I don't know where it came from say? I heard a voice say, no way. This is me, founder of Skin is Skin. I started Skin is Skin because I am tired of the divisions among us. Yet, I have that crap. So, of course you're like, this is crazy. What the hell is that? That has nothing to do with my conscious beliefs. None of my conscious values. This is not my values, but it's there. So somehow along the way, I picked up on all of this crap. And so, of course, the minute you see it, when it comes up to the surface, that's when you can attack it. And that's why actually it is very important that we bring it up to the surface. So many discrimination, practices, it's all about suppressing. People being like, oh, I have no discrimination. Oh, I have no problem. That's not me. You are precisely the problem when you say something like that, because you have them. Do you know why you have them? Because the moment we turn around 3 years old, two things happen. On one end, you're a little person, you're starting to try to make sense of a world. So you're getting all of these signals from the world. And I spent a lot of time with brain scientists on these things, with psychologists, behavioral scientists, all types of things, because this is a big deal to me. In 2016, my life changed. In 2016, in July 2016, when I saw the 3 videos of black people being killed by the police, I won't even try to think about what happened for me. But it was deep, and it was this force that I felt could destroy me if I did not try to do something about it. I was so angry. I was so full of hate. But it's not the way to live one's life. And that's when I decided to go on a journey of trying to find out why, and how is it that we still have discrimination in 2016. That's back then. And I dug deep, as I do anytime something really bothers me. I'm a radical optimist, but the type of optimist I am always also tries to make sure I have, science and logic behind my sales. So that's why I spend all of this time with these people. And it turns out, from the moment we turn around free, all of us, we get these signals from our parents, from our friends on the playground, from the Disney movies we watch, from the books that we read, and it's full of signals, and all of the signals are full of biases themselves from the people who came before us. We're little people, we try to make sense of the world, so every signal we get, we put in a box, but it's a huge box, right? It's it's not very subtle. And at the same time, our brain, the brain is the smallest organ of the body, yet sucks up the most energy. It is designed for efficiency. What the brain does is automate as much as it can. So you're getting all of these big messages, they're getting put into boxes, and the more you get them, the more the brain is just like toot. And before I know it, Magatte is growing up, and her parents are teaching her, every time you're watching TV, you're seeing that, oh, such and such black person committed this crime. Such and such person committed that crime. So much that my black parents in France were watching the news coming from America, and they're always showing you what the black people are doing wrong. So much that my black parents, when they see these things, they say, oh, look, again, these people causing trouble. So, of course, if you don't pay attention, at some point, maybe you're even discriminating against your own people. So, but the good news is, So the brain is trained for automation, which means that anytime you're not switching it on, you are on auto. Auto. Meaning if I don't pay attention, I will not hire Dr. Chavez as I did after I researched him like everybody else and found out that he looked great on paper and everything, and Dr. Chavez by now is my doctor. In this situation, I went beyond lip service. And that is the power of what can happen if only one's mind is switched on. So the purpose of Skin is Skin was all about how does one fight discrimination. So you have to be constantly reminded of it. And we're talking about implicit biases here. I'm not talking about David Dukes and the likes. Those guys, somebody telling me consciously, you and I are different because we have a different skin color. I don't know what to do with people like that. Probably there are people who know how to talk to them. I don't know what to do with them. But what I know now what to do is with people like me and maybe people like you in this room, who probably, I'm sure if I ask you, you'll say, of course we're not different based on skin color. Yet I bet you I could watch each one of you and 20 times a day catch you committed some type of microaggression on other people. And if you think it's not, challenge me. Allow me to follow you a day. Anybody in this room, regardless of which skin color you are, regardless of which gender you are, I will watch, I will follow you, and I will catch you committing microaggressions multiple times a day. You and me are the people that I care about because we are a huge majority. And our job with Skin is Skin is to do what happened with me with Dr. Chavez, to switch everybody on so we no longer are on auto because that's the only way we're going to confront this thing. And the more you confront your biases, and there's a process actually, it's detect, reflect, reject. And we have a 5-month practice. Each month we walk you into one of them. And our method has been scientifically shown to make results. So to me, like I said, I'm a radical optimist, but a radical optimist who likes to put all the options on all the chances on her side. There's something that we can do here, that's what we did. People ask us even, why do you have a lip balm? Because you need a constant reminder. And lip balm is an amazing thing that I use mine at least 10 times a day. So I need to remind you as many times as I can to switch your mind on. And when you switch it on, I want you to kick your love and to kick your empathy and to kick your curiosity into gears. Because why? Because those 3 ingredients are key ingredients to the brain to rewire itself. Because your biases are right now sitting in some neural pathways that have been created from when you were 3 years old. The only way for the biases to go away at this point is for those 2 neurons that have formed them to no longer talk to each other. And the way they separate from each other to create other ones is through you have to be curious, you have to have empathy, and you have to have love. So in our lip balms, we have coconut and love, mint and curiosity, and anise and empathy. Intentions as active ingredients. I'm crazy. This is a big undertaking. Some people created Black Lives Matter. Other people are doing some other stuff. I'm joining into I'm joining my way in my own way to see what I can do about this. And also, that's also another way that I use business. So we talked about a lot of heavy stuff. This one, its own way, it's also a little bit heavy. But what I like about this is, hopefully, this leaves us all. I don't know if we can turn the light. These are all real stories, real people. So you guys, it was my greatest privilege to bring you into my world, into my life, where you can see that people like us, like me, have an amazing respect for the power of business and the forces that allow it to happen. Because business does great for us when we have these jobs, we can take care of our families and everything. And also, business has a great potential to tackle some of our greatest social issues as well. That's what I wanted to share with you. I hope you learned something. And most importantly, I hope you were able to hear the other side of the story. What you do with it now belongs to you and you only. But I'm here to answer any question that you may have about anything. Thank you.
We've got about 10 minutes for questions, so raise your hands and we'll all the way back.
Right. Thank you so much. I just wanted to ask, why do you think, is that all you do? Why do you think people say I don't see color?
You know, oh, it's very interesting. Just because I had the conversation with someone today. I think what happens when people say I don't see color is because in a way you have been so good at identifying the other person almost as, see, what needs to happen for biases to really go away is for each one of us to be able to individualize the other person. But what happens when you get so close to a person is you actually tend to group them in. They just belong to a different group. They're your group of friends. And somehow you remove all the external, like markers from them. They just are your friend. Now, on first aspect, you think it's a good thing, right? You're like, hey, how can colorblindness be so wrong? Except that when you're doing that, you're not giving the person her or his individuality. And I think that's why people say that they don't see color, is because when someone becomes so close to you, we do that in our minds. We remove all the external things, and it's just my friend. You brought them into a new group, your group of friends, which is the reason also why, although you have a black friend, but you don't, black friend or white friend or yellow friend or green friend, but you can't even see the color of, but at the same time, you are very capable, you who have, let's say, all of these Latino friends, you're still very capable of walking in the street at night, seeing a Latino-looking person, and deciding to change side of walkway. Because you see what the brain has done. So your brain is always trying to automate. So the greatest challenge we have to do for it is to always go back to individualizing people. That's our only hope. You've got to individualize people. So, but that's where it comes from when people say, I don't see colors. And by the way, it's a very, very bad practice to try and do colorblindness. That stuff just does not work. It does not work for obvious reasons and other not so obvious reasons. You can ask me more about it if you want, but yeah, the colorblindness thing is, I remember when I tell my friends, do not tell me that you're colorblind. That's one of the biggest insults you can do to me, because this color of my skin is part of who I am. And you cannot say you see me if you can't see that also. This is not the only story, but the whole thing is a story, is my story. So that's what it is.
How do you feel about movements like Pan-Africanism?
I think it comes from a great place. I'm definitely a former federalist, if you think about it, meaning like a bunch of little nations kind of joining forces when it's right, and allowing people to be able to move and goods to move and all that stuff. But one of my biggest problems with Pan-Africanism these days is I found them to be a little bit too exclusive. I think we have moved too much, and I totally understand where it comes from, by the way. I think people have been so hurt, people have been so diminished and so disregarded and so discarded, actually, that now it's just like, forget about other people, we're just going to stay among ourselves. And my biggest problem with some of the Pan-Africanists is, I'm like, what type of an ally can you be when you agree with everything I say, but you stop at the fact that, oh, how come your husband is white? My husband is white because I'm free in my head. I get to pick from everywhere. Thank you very much. I don't limit myself. So that type of attitude, I don't like. For me, I'm very much on the side of the truth, and I believe there are good people everywhere. I really think we need to stop judging each other based on these skin colors. And especially the fact that it's been done to us means that more than anyone else, we should not do that, because we should know better than anyone else how it feels and what it does. So to me, it's just like, yes, let's have our African pride, absolutely. But does it mean, do you have really to trample on others in order to look big? No. In my mind, there's only one way of being bigger. You are bigger.
Let me take my prerogative to ask you a question. Which
Yes.
is, one of the most interesting things about this talk is how often you talk about business. We're using words like dignity, and purpose, and meaning, right? You know, there's a bunch of economists in the room, and others who teach business. And we don't talk about it, some of us, but we normally don't talk about it that way. And so, why do you think that is, and what's the power? Because I think that rhetoric is very powerful and very important. So, talk a little bit about that, about why you think that that's so. And I think you do. That's so important.
Yeah, you know, for the longest time, when I first came to the US, I never understood, you know, there is this little thing going on in the United States. And I feel like in the United States, for most people who like business and believe in business, and usually the people who believe in business are the ones who believe in the human being. They believe that we're so capable that we can create businesses, right? I was shocked. You see, in Africa, and when I talk to my friends, we all love the ability to start a business and everything. But for some reason, you come to the US, and all of a sudden, I'm like, if you talk about business, or you like business, or you like try to promote business, and all of that, you know what? They start to say, oh, you're right wing. And I'm like, huh? What are you talking about, right? And I still don't understand how in this country we started to make this crazy thing. Because in my mind, actually, business is a great thing to free people, right? I mean, why should I not be allowed, me, a young woman, to be able to start a business and to try and, you know, feed my family from it? What's so wrong? And then I started to think about it. I really wanted to understand, why is it that in this country, business has such a bad rap? And so then I started discovering, first of all, the confusion that people have between big business / crony business and business itself. We should not even have a word business next to crony, if you ask me. It's crony something, I don't know what it is, but it's not business. Because real business is when everybody is allowed to start something and is given a chance to start something, which means you do not raise the barriers of entry. Because if you raise the barrier of entry, you make it really, really hard for the have-nots to get in the game. And you keep having the same people being able to get in the game. And what happens is, all of a sudden, you only have these big companies. And when you have big companies with these forms of monopolies, they get to do whatever they want. When they become the only game in town, it's pretty bad for the rest of us, isn't it? So I think people here have been confusing everything. But there's another thing that I have noticed, though, is oftentimes the people who talk on behalf of business, even for me, they're kind of repulsive. No, they are. Why? Because all I feel like I'm hearing is some rich people defending their assets and blah, blah, blah. Now, don't take me wrong, they have a right to defend their assets, they worked for it. But it comes across like, I just want to defend what's mine. I don't care about other people. It's all about rich people because, thank God, through business they were able to make it. Good for them. But if instead the rhetoric was about how business can really help empower the least advantaged among us, I think we would have a completely different story. And also for me, I use those words. Meaning, purpose, dignity, because that's what truly for me, it's what it is. It's what it has brought me. And it's what it brings to my people. It's what it brings to the regular people. So I stick with what I know. When I talk to you, I don't come at it from an ideological standpoint. I just share with you the truth that I know to be true in my heart and in my mind. It is only my opinion. But it is not an opinion that was formed overnight, and it was not formed in the clouds. This is real. I have seen how business has been able to get me out of stuff. And that's why also I love the United States. You know, I have free passports. I can go anywhere in the world, most of the world. I have a French passport, so I have access to the whole European Union. I have a Senegalese passport. With that one, I have access to a lot of countries in Africa, definitely all the ones in a lot of them in the West African zone. and I have an American passport with which one you can go pretty much anywhere. And when came time for me to choose where I was gonna rest my luggage, build roots, and create value and wealth, the value and wealth that I created for myself and for others around me, where did I pick? I picked the United States. I could have gone anywhere. I picked the United States. So for those of you who don't know that by simply having been born in this country, you in a way won the lottery, the rest of us are here to tell you that. And that's what I did. And I did it because here, everything is in place to allow me to take advantage of it. I won't go into some other difficulties. Yes, we have the R word out there, we have all of that stuff out there, but still, if we stand still, and if we focus, and if we let go of the voices, and if we ignore those who want to stop us, you have the tools in this country to do what you need to do, and there is not a thing they can do about it. I just know it. That's what I've done. I faced people that I knew flat out were racist. If they had it in their way, I would go nowhere. People that were sexist, everywhere. Guess what? I see you're over there. You feel that way. You're that way. You're going to make sure to block me all over the place. Guess what I do? I happen to be in a country where I'm free to be like, okay, move on over, go that direction. But in some countries, you can't do that. Anyway.
That is a very good place to end. Thank you, Magatte. Thank you all for coming.